Mental health does not exist in Africa, or at least that's according to my grandma. And I know she might actually sound like she's wrong, but if you try to understand it from her perspective, it makes a lot of sense to understand why mental health issues are so downplayed in Africa. I am from the third generation, meaning my grandma is the first and my parents are the second. In Africa, during my grandma's time, it was World War and the colonialism and stuff. These were not the best times for humanity in Africa. These were not the best of times for anybody. People never really had any formal education. And in the case of my grandma, she is like 80 something now. She doesn't even know how to read. So surprisingly, she actually knows how to speak English, which is when she speaks English, I really laugh. But the thing you need to understand is people from the first generation went through so many tough times. Like they went through so much and made it out. And so for them, it's like they never really had this. We do not know what we do not know. Mental health was just something that was not there in Africa during these times, and everything that they went through, everything they endured and came out to be the people that they ended up to be afterwards is just something that makes them believe that you are just making things up when you talk about mental health issues. They do not believe in mental health issues because they went through things that are much worse than you. They are like they endured so much and they came out and they think that that is reason enough to make them believe that no matter what you're going through right now, you have no reason to have any sort of mental health issue. That is the main problem that is there. And in terms of our grandparents and parents, the thing you need to understand is knowledge is passed on from generation to generation. So how the first generation raises the second generation, the information that they hand down to the second generation most likely affects the third generation. Now, with the first generation, which is our grandparents, it's much worse. With the second generation, it's not the best, but fortunately for some of them, if they actually manage to become like successful, they receive the formal education, they do actually understand these mental health issues and they try to seek help for their kids. I grew up with ADHD and it's something that I struggled with for as much as I can remember. And I remember talking to my therapist, asking me about questions and everything, describing my childhood. I was always bored in class. I was zoning out. Like I was literally so bored. I just couldn't concentrate. Like all these symptoms, ADHD symptoms and stuff. I just didn't know, that there's actually a formal diagnosis for this kind of thing. I had no idea. I had no clue. Not until I grew up and actually started reading, social media and everything. And even though our generation glorifies mental health issues, there was a whole period when people were saying I'm bipolar, just for aesthetics, when there's people who are actually going through a lot of these problems. Does mental health exist or does it not exist in Africa? Well, it does exist, but the reason why we just don't give it the attention that it needs is because of the fact that we just don't come from a background of thinking that you can, like, these things are just serious enough to break you, which is really sad. Our parents endured a lot and they think that you're just being weak when you're going through these things. That's actually like the biggest problem with mental health in Africa. If you're going through some sort of mental health, you know there's something wrong with you, but you just don't even know who you can open up to, because it's like no one's going to get you. Like even my friends, they just like I have always been very antisocial. Like I'm very introverted. And where you come from, you can't say you're introverted. Like, introvert, what is that? You're trying to, they always think as though you're trying to act some type of way when you talk about these things, which is really sad for people who struggle with mental health issues, because it's like you just want help for your issues, and you can't necessarily get therapy because therapy it's a market. The market just doesn't have much demand, and so that makes it more expensive. It's like only the middle class and upper classes can actually afford these kind of things. But all in all, I think that now it's so much better to get help, because there's a lot of people who speak about it, because of social media in terms of mental health. And my grandma will never believe you if you say you have mental health issues. Like, just don't even tell her if you're struggling with mental health issues in Africa. The best thing that I can actually advise you to do is to join online communities and try to get help. You don't necessarily need to get help from your friends, because my friends, no one ever really understood the things that I experienced. So talking about these things with anyone was kind of hard and impossible, until I found some communities on Facebook, especially Facebook. And now there's like Discord channels dedicated to some of these things. So just find a community where you feel like you belong.